Hi there. Welcome to the Woodshed. My name's Robert, and appreciate you stopping by to check out my very first video on my channel. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to create a channel and start a whole YouTube thing, and so I'm pretty excited to do it. A little nervous too. A little background about myself. I'm a retired teacher. Got a lot of passions, like to play golf, like to fish, and like to do a lot of woodworking. And so I'm kind of hoping to marry the two passions a little bit. So I'm hoping what I've got to share with you is useful, and hopefully you'll be back and watch a little bit more as my film and editing gets a little bit better. But I want to talk a little bit today about making money woodworking. I've made a lot of things over, my lifetime. Some things I've given away as gifts, some things I've been able to sell online, and some I've been able to sell at craft shows and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to take you back through some of those journeys as we get through some of this. But what I want to focus on today is something I think we all struggle with, and that is, how can I make more money, given the fact that not everyone appreciates the craftsmanship that goes into creating something. Like everybody else, I've done a lot of cutting boards, I've done a lot of charcuterie boards, some cedar boxes. There are a lot of guys online that I watch and follow, so I'll give them credit in the next few videos. But I've learned a lot online from people too. But at the end of the day, when you go to a craft show, you've got a lot of things, and you almost feel a little guilty charging what your product is worth, but you want to charge enough or charge a little bit so that people will actually buy it. And the only thing that I can really think of to help keep the price down, and still get my money's worth out of the project, and that's by increasing the efficiency in which I create things. Like everyone else, I've bought a lot of tools, started with some very basic stuff, and I won't bore you with all of those. I had a basic planer to begin with. Now I have a little bit nicer one. I just got a drum sander, a used one I found on Facebook. I've continued to upgrade my bandsaw. I used to have a commercial job site table saw. And now I've got a little bit bigger one. But, we all go through those stages where you just kind of gradually update a little bit. The hope is that your product becomes better and you can become more efficient when creating the product. All right. So if I can make something a little bit better and do it in a little bit less time, I can make a little bit more money. I don't have to charge quite as much because the labor hours aren't there. And so I feel like I don't have to price myself out of the market. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to give away my things. I make some quality things. I use some good hardwoods, the usual maple, walnut, purple heart, yellow heart everyone else uses. So I'm not going to undercut the quality of the product, but I just want to find a way to make things more efficient. And so recently, I've been making a lot of cutting boards. And one of the things I've noticed is that obviously if you go in, you buy 4/4, 5/4, 6/4 pieces of wood, by the time you're done sanding, planing, jointing, the board gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And as I've noticed lately, as I've been using some clamps to do the boards, that, they always slide a little bit. The glue gets wet, the boards slip a little bit, even when you tighten them. So I've tried using cauls on the ends, and that's helped a lot, but I'm still finding that I'm spending a little bit more time over at the planer flattening things or over at the drum sander. And while the time isn't hard and it doesn't take very long, I'm removing lots of material just to get it flat again. And so the purpose of today's video is really to share with you what I'm going to try to help increase my efficiency with the boards. All right. I just bought this, actually Santa, this 4-way pressure clamp from Fulton. Not sponsored by them or anything. The reviews are great. They've sold a lot of them. Basically, it's a kit. It's a hardware kit, and you've seen some of these before. They, you know, it's a clamping system. You know, you put one on the bottom, one on the top, you know, just like that. And the idea is that not only do you have clamping pressure like this to sandwich your board, right, to keep it flat, but you've also got pressure from the sides as well. So hopefully that'll minimize the number of clamps I need to put throughout. All right, I'll still put a caul on each end, probably one in the middle, but my glue up with the clamps will be with probably two instead, because I think I'll get plenty of pressure with these. So today's video is really about putting this thing together. Again, it only comes with the hardware. You've got to provide your own wood. They suggest cutting a 2x4 in half, and obviously you can make it as long as you want. I won't bore you with the cutting and ripping of those all. I basically took a 2x6. I trimmed off the edge to get it nice and square, and I cut myself like 3 inches, maybe 2 3/4 inch pieces, and they're really pretty simple, right? So the idea is now that you use the edge grain, right? Because if you do your board like this and you put a lot of clamping pressure, you can bow this, right? So it might conform to whatever the shape is of the board, okay? However, as you know, if you turn your board on the edge grain, you know, it's a lot harder to bend this way. So you're going to get a little bit flatter squeeze of your board. So I think you'll get a little bit better product. So the idea now is I'm going to go over, get my drill some holes, screw these things on, and again, I won't bore you with just ripping these things down. I think we've all done that before, right? You can rip a 2x4 or 2x6, and I've ripped 8 of these to create 4 of these clamps. All right, so I'll be back to you in just a few minutes. All right, so got everything out, got all the parts out. Basically had to drill a lot of pilot holes, and pretty easy instructions to follow. They give you some nice pictures and instructions to go along here. Everything on this side goes right up against the edge, so pretty easy. You know, I kind of wish they would have included, like, you know, a pattern that you could set on here and draw your circles, because some of the holes, you know, if you just try to drill them straight down, aren't exactly in the center. So that might have been one thing I wish the company would have done. But, you know, again, it's not a hard thing. If you, you know, if you wanted to get exactly perfect, you know, you could draw a line down the middle of the board and make sure you're in the center. But anyway, it would have been easy for them to provide that. Anyway, so I've gotten most of the rails in on these two. I'm going to finish these final 2. There's about 8 screws here. Again, I drilled the pilot holes already, so it should go pretty fast. These actually go on the very end, which makes it pretty easy to line it up. So basically, this is a little rinse and repeat situation. See, here's a perfect example how I didn't really drill the holes right in the center, right? You can see. So, I mean, it isn't mission critical, but I mean, I guess while you're doing it, you might as well do it as close to right as you can. Sometimes with these plastic pieces, you can bend them just a little bit, just so that they do fit. The hard part about this plastic is you don't really know, like, you know, just try to tighten it until it's snug. Don't want to break it. Perfect. All right, just a couple more here, then we'll move on to what this assembly looks like. Now apparently you can put these extra pieces right next to these, and so if you've got this happens to be a 3-foot, but if you've got maybe an 18-inch board, you only need 24 feet, so now you've got some extra slots here to use. But I don't know, I've never used these type of calls, so we'll see how they work out. Really a pretty easy process, a little monotonous to drill all the holes. And the instructions are pretty good. Everything comes nice and packaged. All right, there are some instructions here, especially with these loaded springs. You need to open them. You need to feed this piece through and then turn it. And then you do put the little bumper on the outside. And again, they provide all the screws for you there. All right, so that piece is done. That piece is done. So let's just grab these pieces together and boy, so we know one is going to go up like this. The matching set will go underneath, something like that. And it looks like your crank will go on the outside of the short edge, according to the instructions. These calls, they only give you one side to tighten, kind of like your regular clamps. So probably best to always have this one out as far as you can. All right, so we know it's going to go something like that. Your upper piece will do something like this. Now I suspect here, the further we screw this out, the wider of gap you've got in between to be able to slide a board underneath or inside there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the other one on the other side. I'm gonna grab a board, kind of see how they go together, and see how it works. All right, so yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve here. So I just grabbed some random pieces and I was gonna try to see how this would work. And so you're gonna need to do a little bit of a dry fit before, assuming you were gonna do your regular glue up, you know, something like this, right? All right, so you have some idea how much you need to squeeze this board. All right, now again, a little bit of a learning curve here. There's plenty of adjustments along the bottom, and I think if you if you lift your clamp up and simply slide it underneath until you're kind of close, I think that might work. Okay, do the same thing on the other side. All right, so let's assume we put our glue on, right? Slid our pieces together, glue. Okay, maybe I put these a little bit too close. Like I said, a little bit of a learning curve, but one of the things I've always kind of worried about is like, okay, I put the glue on, the glue's drying, I've got to hurry up and get the clamps on it. But you know, you've got some time. You know, I think you got probably a good 10 minutes of maneuvering time to get yourself all set up. So I think the better you get at this, the more you do it, the better you get at it. All right, so let's say we've done our glue up here, our pieces are down. All right, now I know these aren't straight, but again, I was just trying to get a sample here for you. So to add the top part, okay, the big adjustments are going to go on this side, the smaller ones over on this side. So here's what I've learned is if you flip the top over, right, slide your board through, and you can slide it until it's kind of even with the other one, right? And then let it fall over. Then the other side, you'll open it up, lower it down, and flip it. Now, for me, I would probably be a little bit like, oh my gosh, my glue's drying. You gotta hurry up. But again, I think you've got a little more time than we think. Great. Now at this point, I think it's just about screwing the pieces closed. You know, you may want to adjust towards the end. I don't know that that's necessary. There, I can see it sliding that way. This one's got a long way to go, so let me do this for me. All right, so I see the clamps moving to close the wood together. Do this kind of at the same time here. Kind of liking how that's working. Pretty flat on the sides. Now, one thing we'll need to do is go in and put some non-stick tape underneath the cauls so they don't stick to your wood. Same thing on the bottom. But that's pretty snug in there. They do recommend that about every 12 inches you put a second one, which is why I got 4 of these. I can see that's still moving, so I can tighten it just a little more. You know, I think the same thing applies. You're looking for squeeze out. You know, you don't want to squeeze it so tight. But right here, you know, you've got pressure this way and you've got pressure this way. So my hope is we're going to get a pretty flat board when we're done with this. Now, if you're just one of those that likes to over clamp, you know, you can take another clamp on top if you so choose. And go ahead and, if you feel like the middle needs it. Now, the one thing I did notice right away though is that the cauls are much taller than my Bessie clamps. So you're just going to have to commit to, if you use your Bessie clamps, build it close enough to the edge, right? So you can slide these guys on, right? Because you're going to need the overhang in order to get it on there. I think it's going to work out pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it. Can't wait to try it. So maybe I'll share that result on part 2. All right, thanks for joining me on the channel. Again, it's my first time, so I know it's a little bit messy. All right, thanks for joining me on the channel. Again, it's my first video, so I know there's a lot of things to work out. But hey, it's uncut. It's exactly how it works. And like everyone else, I struggle with learning new things too. I think once the learning curve is over, I think we're gonna have a pretty good product here. So I'm excited to use them, and I'll post a part 2. In the meantime, keep making some sawdust. If you're new to YouTube and you're new to this channel, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, or if you want to leave me a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and any constructive criticism is certainly appreciated. So anyway, looking forward to the next one. Thanks a lot, y'all.